I'm on a quest for being able to better define impact. And I'm talking about the impact that we have around here that is spelled a bit differently. EMPACT. That form of impact is a different type of impact altogether. It's not as easy to find as the impact that happens when there's a wreck or a break or something along those lines, but this form of impact has greater, impact. Empowered impact happens when people are vulnerable, when we let down our guard and be honest with ourselves in a way that not just changes us, but changes others in the process. My dear friend and fellow author, Katie Anderson, knows this deeply and believes that real impact happens when we are vulnerable, because that's where true learning happens. I am excited to invite Katie Anderson, author of Learning to Lead, Leading to Learn, on today to share with you just how important impact really is. Hey, I'm Stephanie Feger, and Empower is my middle name. Okay, well, not really, but it should be. I believe that empowered people empower people, and I'm obsessed with empowering you, the nonfiction author, with impactful marketing strategies to help you take your important message and share it with those who desperately need it and want it and will buy it. I'm the owner and chief strategist of the Empower PR Group and the author of 3 books myself, including my newest book, Make Your Author Impact. Sell more books, increase your reach, and achieve your why. I've been called to merge my love for reading books, writing books, and marketing books to help nonfiction authors with laser-focused strategies and tactics to write books that sell, promote books to those who need and want them most, and build meaningful businesses from empowering messages. Think of this podcast as your one-stop shop for marketing insights from an author who has been there, done that, and understands exactly where you are, because guess what? I do. So get your pens ready, because I'm ready to empower you today with Katie Anderson. This is the Empowered Author Podcast. Katie, I am so freaking glad you're here. It's been I've been talking to you about being a part of the Empowered Author Podcast for a year and a half now, and we've made it happen. So good to see you, Katie. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Stephanie. I'm thrilled to be here and to be talking about our mutual author impact.
It's fun, right? Like, we've supported one another in our growing and impact making experience over the last several years. And I'm just really grateful for you. I'm grateful for the growth I've had with it. And I'm grateful for you allowing me and the Empower PR Group to be a part of your growth too. It's been truly a joy to see you make an impact, not just, in your community, not just in our country, but around the world.
Oh, thank you, Stephanie. And I am so grateful for our partnership. I think, or I know that everything you've done has helped me be more successful in having the impact that I wanted, not just for my book, but for my business and for myself personally as well. So thank you for being my guide. Seriously, when any other author says, Katie, you've been so successful in marketing your book over the last 2.5 years, what was your secret? And I said, oh, you have to talk to Stephanie, because she was my guide on this process. And this is how we help each other. We bring our own expertise to help enable and empower others to be more impactful and successful as well. So thank you for being that person for me.
Oh, you are so welcome. You're so welcome. And, I don't know that we can go too much deeper until we talk about actually just the power of people helping people make an impact. That's like when you look at how I spell impact with an EM, it's the reminder that impact is not like I say, it's not like throwing a rock through a window and it breaks, or
Yeah.
the impact of a bad day or anything. It's this rippled impact, this impactful and empowered impact. And that's what people do. And so I think back now, I know your full story, but those listening don't. And I want to share, because there have been many pivotal people in your own journey that has helped you get here. One in particular
Yeah.
that I think we really need to highlight. So, Katie, take it away. I want to know all about Mr. Yoshino and your whole journey.
Yeah, first I want to build on this concept of impact and helping each other. And that really is
Mhm.
linked directly to this concept
Yeah.
of a chain of learning. And
Mhm.
you almost could consider this chain of helping each other grow, develop, have the impact that we want as well. So this chain of learning concept is one that my amazing friend and mentor, 40-year Toyota leader, Isao Yoshino, referenced when he talked about his experience at Toyota. And now for me, it's what I'm trying to do and create by helping others learn together and grow. And so this chain of learning is so impactful. But Mr. Yoshino, for those of you who don't know, is the subject of my book, Learning to Lead, Leading to Learn, Lessons from Toyota Leader Isao Yoshino on a Lifetime of Continuous Learning. Woo.
Yay!
And I had the I'm a leadership consultant, coach, and speaker I've had my own company for almost a decade now, working in hospital systems and other industries to really help create learning cultures of continuous improvement that are people centered, that's really focused on achieving outcomes through process and through learning. And I had the incredible fortune to move to Japan with my family in 2015 for 2 years. And I met Mr. Yoshino, who is one of just the most kind and wise people that I know. I was talking to him last night at the time of this recording. And I literally thought a once in a lifetime day going to Toyota City and visiting Toyota with him was going to be seriously just one day. And it turned into be one of the most impactful relationships in my own life. And then I just was learning so much from him. I started writing a blog. People are really responding to the things that I was learning from and with him and from the questions I was asking him. And that blog then became, oh, let's do a project, maybe a book together. And now it's this award-winning and best-selling book that's really impacted so many people. I mean, the almost 255-star reviews on Amazon, I think, speaks for
Yeah.
the impact of the book and people really resonating with his personal stories and the stories behind the scenes of what's often known as lean manufacturing or lean production, the genesis of agile, and all these concepts that a lot of businesses around the world are trying to use to improve their cultures. And Mr. Yoshino was there when Toyota was really kind of creating this learning culture. So
He's
it was a
awesome.
great privilege of mine. He is so nice. You've had a chance to meet him and talk with him so
Yes.
many times, and
Yes, I
he's
just
just
love
great.
him. I love him. One day, I'm putting it out there, Katie, on my bucket list. I want to come with you on a trip to Japan and I want to meet him and I want to experience what it's like to be
Yes.
there. That would be
Oh my
awesome.
gosh. I would love to have you come join me in Japan because those trips are not, you learn so much about business and
Yeah.
leadership, but you also just get this enriched cultural experience too. So,
Yes,
yes, we'll make
yes.
it
Well,
happen. We'll
we
make it
will.
happen.
We will. But so I've had the pleasure of reading your book cover to cover many times
Yeah.
and helping you with your workbook and all this
Yeah.
fun stuff in your business. But something that just sits with me when I think about impact, like the true impact as people that we get the opportunity to do.
Mm,
We as humans, we like to share the beautiful parts of ourselves. But
yeah.
real impact I have found comes when we're vulnerable and we acknowledge
Mm.
our growth opportunities. And
Mm.
I remember through discussions we've had with Mr. Yoshino about how he just couldn't understand why you kept asking him questions about his life. He didn't realize that people would think it would be so interesting, right? But then he also allowed him to, as you were helping kind of formulate this book, helped him start to see things in his own life as the growth and learning potential too that could help someone in the future.
And absolutely. I mean, I was so appreciative of how vulnerable he was willing to be, but there were some experiences that were really hard for him to talk about. Like he would say, "Oh, I had this big business failure and a big personal failure," but it was at a very surface level. But through our partnership, we were able to get to another level. And something shifted for him, as you said, of seeing and reframing these experiences that maybe felt like a failure
Yeah.
in the past to him in a new light. And also, how rewarding for him to hear how many people are saying, "You sharing these experiences, Mr. Yoshino, of your challenges, your failures, your mistakes actually is allowing me to improve and get better." It's so relatable because sometimes
Yeah.
we read business books and you see or leadership books and you hear more of the success stories. And of course, there are a
Yeah.
lot of success stories and great things that happened
Right.
in his life too.
Right.
But this is a human experience that, life is full of ups and downs and setbacks. I mean, my
Yeah.
darumas that you see up above me represent this Japanese proverb, fall down 7 times, get up 8. And it's
I
it's
love
about
that.
always getting up, even if we
Yes.
have challenges and setbacks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's there's so since we've worked together for so long, there's a lot of parts in just how I see my own business and my own
Mm,
work that is been informed from our relationship and what I've learned by working with you. But one of
oh,
them is like this failing forward, right? Like we're going to make mistakes. It's not when the mistakes happen, it's what you do from them. And then
mm,
this other part of where real learning actually happens and real growth happens. And it's not where we always think it is. It's in the reflection part, right? Like people think think reflection happens at the end. Like I think back to my corporate days when people would, ask, "Hey, Stephanie, like it's the end of the year. Shouldn't we be looking at our goals and what have you?" Yeah, yeah, yeah. And reflection was always like, oh, okay, well, I guess we could have done that better. But you've really charged me to realize that reflection is the beginning. Like it's not the
Mm.
end, it's the beginning. And it is the beginning of the next phase. Talk to us a little bit about that because
Yeah.
it's really a part of who I am now.
Oh, well, that's so great. And actually, it's a reminder to me that this month, and I need to be doing some more reflection and carve out that time.
Mhm.
We often talk about in the world of continuous improvement, the plan, do, check, act, the
Yeah.
PDCA process, and it's really the scientific method,
Yep.
But we often are just so focused on doing, and we feel too busy, and so we just go like maybe create a short plan, and then we're do, but we're not sure if we're like doing the right thing, or
Yeah.
are we, if something doesn't work out, or what are we learning and adjusting from it. So when we
Mhm.
actually reframe it to plan, do, study, adjust, or as I like to say, study, adjust, plan, do, SAPD, it reminds us that the learning starts through the reflection,
Yeah.
and the knowing where we need to go actually starts from that reflection. So when we can take that time to pause, to slow down, to really think and understand what's going on currently, where do I want to go or need to go? Then frame some actions as a hypothesis. How am I going to get there? What am I going to try? And then do it, and then reflect and learn and adjust again. We actually speed up our
Yeah.
ability to get to the end goal because we're doing it smarter and
Yes.
wiser and faster, opposed to just taking all these actions. But we all fall,
Mhm.
I fall into this trap too, of just
Yeah.
like,
Oh, yeah.
oh my God, it's so urgent. I just got to keep doing, but are we doing the right thing? So we're wasting all this
Right.
energy. So when we can slow down and
Yeah.
reflect and study a little bit more, we are going to be more effective and impactful.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I think that that's a good reminder. I just took a note of it. For those who are listening that want to write a book, right?
Yeah.
Many people come to me and they go, I want to write a book and I'm going to do all these things and da 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 da. And I pause and say, why are you doing it? What's the
Mm,
goal of it? Why,
yes.
how are you going to use it? Right. So it's this reflection first concept. So if you study and really analyze who needs your book, why do they need that? How are you going to use it? Then you can start to build your book to work
Right.
for you.
Well, right. And also choose what's the right publishing pathway for you,
Yes.
and what are the things that are important to you, and how
Mhm.
you're going to get there. So absolutely. I mean, this applies to any
Yep.
goal that we're trying to achieve.
It does.
And book writing, as you know, is full of lots of setbacks and challenges. So we need to know where we're going, and then really get some clarity on what are the things we're going to try to get
Yeah.
there, and be willing to experiment and to do, but to
Mhm.
reflect and learn along the way too.
Yeah, well, and you're a great case study for this because you decided to publish your book in the thick of a pandemic, Katie.
Yeah.
Remem
Well, I did not decide to publish my book in the pandemic. The book was in its
It
final
was
stages
ready.
of editing right
Yep.
when the pandemic hit. So my decision point was, do I go forward and publish
Right.
or not? Back in, March,
Yeah.
April, we had no idea that we were going to
Right.
be in, was going to be multi-years. But I almost felt like a pregnant person, where I was like, this baby needs to be birthed. You can't keep it
Yes.
in. And also, going back to where we started the conversations, these human stories of learning, I mean, they're just so heartwarming in many ways, but
Mhm.
also just go managing through challenges and failure, and how to do that. I decided this book needed to be out there
Yep.
and to be accessible for people when they needed it.
Mhm.
And people really needed it in the pandemic. But it
Yes.
definitely caused me to have to shift so much. I mean, we had planned on, all these public launches, and I had all these in-person book tours set up with Mr. Yoshino coming from Japan to Europe and North America with me, and all of that changed. And that was disappointing, from an author standpoint. Now, of course, the pandemic, was going on,
Sure.
but you were really instrumental in helping me think about, okay, so what can we do through
Yeah.
this, and let's leverage this different opportunity. And it's interesting, in some ways I think I might have reached a broader audience because we
Mhm.
pivoted to everything online, and it
Yeah.
made it so much more accessible
Yeah.
to other people to be part of the celebrations and the events as well. So
Mhm.
the silver the silver lining, perhaps,
There's always one.
but it's, we all had to pivot and to really, deal with a new reality in 2020. And so the same thing with authors as well. But I'm
Yeah.
really pleased that we were able to navigate through that, in a way that I feel like was quite successful and had an impact. And
Mhm.
the book continues to grow. Not the book doesn't
Yes.
grow. The book is not growing. The book is not growing, but the
Yeah.
impact continues to grow. It's been translated to 4 languages. I'm talking to um, 4 or 5 other publishers in different countries about translating the book to other
My
languages in
gosh.
2023. So I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, Katie is a beautiful case study for how when you are passionate about what you're doing, when you write a
Mhm.
good book, like a really good book, when all of that comes together and you have a beautiful marketing kind of approach and you're willing to learn along the way, like you're a beautiful example of what book success can look like. Like
Yeah.
your book is an international bestseller. It's been translated in oodles of languages. You've traveled the world with it. And I continue to be so excited and delighted to hear like
Mm.
every month people are still buying books and some people find spikes,
Mm.
like single spikes. And you might have some months that are bigger than others, but reality is you've got a beautiful constant pulse. Any kind of
Wow.
thoughts on that or what do you think has made the most impact to help make that happen?
So, and I tell other authors this too, because and I had some great advice from previous authors that I really
Mhm.
respect in the same space, leadership space that I'm in, is that writing and publishing the book is one thing, but marketing it and getting it in the hands of other people, that's a whole another full-time job. If
Yeah.
you really want to have an impact with your book, you have to put in the effort. So you can have a
Yeah.
guide like Stephanie
Yep.
in the Powered PR group.
Yep.
You can have that help. What you need to help create the plans and the ideas that you might not know, but you have to execute. And I don't know how many I've been on hundreds of
Yes.
webinars and podcasts, and I love talking to people,
Yeah.
doing so many different events, getting out there talking about the book all the time. Of course, creating the
Mhm.
workbook was a great
Mhm.
companion to really then bring forward the consulting and leadership coaching practices that I have in sort of uniting that, creating an online a
Yeah.
group learning program that I now offer um, to companies as well. But it's a ton of effort, and you have to be out there, you have to be on social media
Yeah.
talking about the book. And I think it's helpful to just know that it's not about necessarily selling. That, to me, selling the book isn't the end goal. It's about, I really genuinely believe that the stories inside the book help people, and so I can talk about that from a
Yes.
genuine space. I couldn't believe it, though. One of the most amazing things that happened to me this year was that I found out that Larry Culp, the CEO of General Electric, had
Yeah.
heard me on a podcast, actually an internal podcast at GE, and you can listen to it on my website called
I'll
And
link to
on
it
That
here.
Note. Yeah, I'll link to it. Yeah, thank you. And he heard me speak on it and was like, "Oh, that was some." Katie said some really insightful things. I wanted. He asked his assistant to put the book in his like summer holiday bag. He came back and sent a message to all GE employees around the world saying, "Read this book." I mean, those are the type.
Yeah.
You can't pay for that. That was an amazing. And then I had a chance to speak with him on stage at a conference. So I'm sharing this
Yeah.
because that is the output of like years of getting the word out and talking about it and the
Yeah.
effort. And then it continues to grow and build. And so the number one recommendation I have for
Yeah.
authors is that you have to put in as much or more effort to marketing the book and
Yeah.
spreading the word about the book than you put into writing the book, if
Mm.
you want to get it into the hands of that many people.
Yeah, you're so right. And well, and as you were sharing that, which by the way is so cool, Katie. Like I was so excited to hear about that opportunity for you. It's proof that nothing happens instantaneously for anybody,
Mm.
that you
Well,
have to
right.
work for it.
Yeah, the book has been out. It was released in July of 2020. We're recording this in December of
Mhm.
2022. So it's the long game.
Yeah.
And in working with you to help set up the launch for success and getting that
Yeah.
team and then continuing to build that plan has been just invaluable. So, authors, if you're listening, go talk to Stephanie. She will help you get on the pathway of how you can best show up to get the book into others people's hands and be aware of why they need it.
Mhm. Well, I appreciate that, Katie. And I'm going to riff off of something in your business. I hope you don't mind. Katie and I have a lot of fun. We work on lots of different projects,
Yeah.
and some of them are kind of behind the scenes, some are in front of the camera and everything in between. But one thing that Katie's been doing this past year is articulating the 7 C's, which
Mm.
is a part of her kind of how she helps people. And we can go into that in a minute, but I'm going to riff because I have 3 C's that I'm going to talk about based on what you just said.
Okay. All right.
When I think about the impact you've had, and again, looking at you and seeing how other people could benefit from it, these are the 3 things that I've identified that I think would be successful. The first one is a collaboration. So
Mm,
I have found on my
mm,
end, so I'm gonna pivot for a minute and talk about what it's like to work with great authors like you.
mm,
The most successful authors that I get the chance to help are the ones that see marketing not as a one off, oh, I'm just going to have somebody else do this. It's a collaborative journey that they are a part of the process. And you've always been that. You know your story best. At your heart, you
mm.
believe in your book and your message. But together, what is it? 1 + 1, Katie, equals way more than
Wait,
2.
that's right.
It does. And so when you collaborate with others, whether it's in your marketing efforts, strategic partnerships, or anywhere in between, collaboration, I think, is a big key. I mean, would you agree that that's been a success point for you?
Oh, absolutely. And I've collaboration has been, it's
Yeah.
not one of my 7 C's, but it is definitely inherent in that. So like
Yeah.
the connection, it's that when we work
Yes.
together, we achieve so much more.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. And there's some things you can outsource for sure, but
Hmm.
it's the partnership you
Yeah.
achieve, so like in figuring out what roles people play and how you can
Yeah.
build on ideas. And one of the things I love working with you, Stephanie, is like we just ideate so much together and build on and create so much more than I would have just if I was thinking about things on my own.
My favorites are when I'm like, "Oh, snap." And like last week when I sent you something, "I can't wait. I have to show you this thing."
Yeah.
Gets really excited. But it's just proof that my dad
Mm,
recently shared with, and this is how books work, but I think it's great in our partnership and other great collaborations, that when an author writes a book, they're one person. When the reader comes to read the book, they're one person. But when they come together, a third person's created, right? And this is where this growth really happens. And I think that's what happens where
mm,
collaborations at. Now, my second C, you just said, and that's connection. And I think,
mm.
look, I'm just making these up, Katie, my C's, my
Oh
three
yeah. Well,
C's
there's so
from
many
your
great
7.
keywords.
So many great C words. But connection, I think, is another very valid tool. And what I've been able to observe as you having the biggest impact. Connection, meaning you see the one, you speak to the one, you connect with the heart, you see, like, it's not just go buy my book. It's listen, I have a message,
Mm,
and the message, you don't even ever say that. The message will change people. You don't have to. You don't have to talk about buying books when you focus on connection. And the
yes,
connection is the
I
driver.
agree. Absolutely. I mean,
Mhm.
this gets back to a comment I made earlier is I've always had a hard time if I'm just selling to sell something, but if I
Yeah.
genuinely believe it and
Yeah.
feel it here, if I can speak from that, and
Mhm.
then that's what it's about. And
Yeah.
what's wonderful is I hear other people saying the same thing. I mean, I just had a session with a client of mine. They've got to talk with Mr. Yoshino, and they were talking about the connection that
Mhm.
they felt and the impact the book had for them. And that was just, yeah,
That's
that I mean,
awesome.
that's what it's about. I mean, we write
Right.
books to help people do something,
Right.
and so yeah, to
Yeah,
talk about that.
I love that. And I think the chain of learning, which is something you so much talk about and believe in, is this, really it's all about being impactful with the EM. It's that when you connect with people, a part
Mm,
of you is left with them, and that changes them and makes them
mm,
stronger. And then a part of them is left. And this is where the chain happens of good change and
yeah.
change in chains and all that loveliness.
Yeah.
Okay. My third C that I've noticed with you is consistency. And you mentioned it before. Show
Mhm.
up, people. You have to show up. You can't stop. You can adjust, but never from the moment this book came out, Katie, we have been consistent in spreading a message, evolving the message, and showing up.
Yep. Yes. I would add like relentless consistency,
Yes.
and that can be exhausting. It doesn't mean you can't take a break. I
Right.
take intentional pauses from social media and other
Yeah.
things, but again, like it's being it is being consistent.
Yep.
It's constantly being out there and talking about not just the book but the messages, connecting with
Yeah.
people, and highlighting ways that it can benefit for you, and so
Yep.
benefit you. Yeah, so I love those collaboration, connection, and consistency. These are going to be the empowered author
I know.
3 C's.
3 C's. Yeah, but when you were chatting, it just came to my mind. I thought, what if I were to whittle down for somebody who's just listening,
Mm,
what I really think your differentiator is, I mean, there's a lot outside of your message, but what has been, and I think that's part of it. You've really focused on being intentional, which is obviously at the heart of the type of leader and the leadership
mm,
you teach, but you've done it in a way that you've shown up, that you've connected with people, you've built relationships along the way. You didn't stop and you found help when you needed it, right? Nobody can do anything alone. Or you could, it wouldn't be quite as fun.
Totally. And, we talked about the concept of intention, and I see intention equals heart plus direction. This comes from the way the word intention is written in Japanese, but it gets back to this purpose, like what's in our heart, what's the impact we want to have, and then what are the actions we need to take to align in that direction. So if we take like that intention for you as an author, what's the impact you want to have on other people? How do you want to show up? And then what are the actions you need to take to really do that? Because it's one thing to set an intention to be like, oh, I want to, have a really successful book and impact a lot of people. All right. So what do you need to do to
Mhm,
actually and achieve that and to be that person who is having the
mhm.
impact? So
Yes. And
yeah,
how will
thank
you
you.
know that you did it? That's, you don't know you're going to get there unless you outline it. That's what I love about the Daruma, because inevitably when you
Mm.
color in one eye, now you know what you need to do to get it complete. I think Darumas are so cool, and I love how you have different ones for different reasons, and it's just amazing.
Yes, well, I'm so excited to go back to Japan. I'm actually placing a large order of mini Darumas because I give them out to all of my clients, people I meet at events, to have a visual reminder of me and a goal that they
Mine.
have as
Yes.
well. But I'm through the pandemic. I haven't been to Japan in almost 3 years, and so I'm down to like 30 mini Darumas. So I just placed
Not
a
enough,
large order.
Katie. You need more.
Yes. Yeah,
I
yeah.
love
So, well,
it.
I had all these in-person events, which was,
Mhm.
again, a lot of it was because of my book. Of course, the book got translated into many languages. So I was in Poland, Portugal, the Netherlands, all these places because celebrating the book. And again, that was my goal with the book, was to reach a global audience because Mr.
Yeah.
Yoshino is so global,
Yeah.
and and so am I. How you define impact can be different. And so it's,
Absolutely.
don't compare yourself against like me, or don't compare yourself against
Right.
other authors, but what is the impact you want to have for your book, and then go out and achieve that. That's why you wrote the
Do
book,
it.
right? So
Yes,
people
and
will
go
read it.
do it. Yes, because I always say a book that isn't read makes Stephanie cry, and nobody wants to make Stephanie
Yeah.
cry. Like,
No.
you don't want a book collecting dust. You want it to have the spine broken and the pages folded. You want them to need to get a second one because they've read it so many times that it's worn. Like, you want it used. You didn't write a book for your legacy to sit on a shelf. You wrote a book because you have something that the world can be changed from. And as someone who's read your story and your book, I mean, Mr. Yoshino's story is beautifully interwoven, but so is yours, Katie. And I think,
Uh,
honestly, even though your book is written for leaders, I think anybody, anywhere could benefit from it. And I would highly encourage
well,
them to read it.
Well, thank you, Stephanie. And that was actually really important to me in how I wrote the book. I
Yeah.
didn't want to write a super technical book that was really only going to appeal to people who are either in a leadership role or are in a continuous improvement, lean
Mhm.
practitioner role. But really, they're human stories about becoming a better person and having an impact on other
Right.
people. And so I wrote it from that frame to be accessible to everyone, but still meet the
Yeah.
interests of the people who are more experienced and others. So thank you so much for
Yeah.
for those insights and continuing to help me expand the impact of this book for people who, as you always say, don't know that they need
They
it.
don't know they need it yet, but they will. And that's why we tell them about it.
Yeah.
Katie, it's an honor to have been on the journey with you. You have taught me so much about leading and learning to lead and leading to
Oh,
learn and all of that stuff. But you're in the business of making an impact, and so am I. And I'm just so grateful to be able to support you in that process. So thank you. And thank you for sharing your story with us today.
thank you, Stephanie. And really, 1 + 1 equals much more than two. So that's how we create our impact.
Absolutely. There was a time in life that I wanted to be a math teacher. Don't laugh, but I laugh at it now because this girl over here needs a calculator on the regular. However, the type of math that Katie always speaks about is something I can do. I can do that because 1 + 1 equals way more than two. When two people come together, something magical happens, growth occurs, and that's where lives are changed. It's where the chain of learning begins and it's where it continues. It's also where success is built. Katie continues to have amazing book success, and I believe it's because she's open to what I've called the 3 C's: collaboration, a commitment to connection, and very, very, very consistent efforts. I've loved working with Katie, and I'd love to work with you too. If I can help you make an impact, come on, let's chat. That'd be fun. And you may really enjoy reading my new book, Make Your Author Impact: Sell More Books, Increase Your Reach, and Achieve Your Why. I am truly humbled to get the opportunity to help authors, and I'm honored to support them. Impact, however, is a two-way street. It's a pay it forward kind of amazing. So if you like the book or any book from any author, share it, people, share it, friends, share it with another person. And if you like Make Your Author Impact, share it with another author, because it may be the empowerment tool that they need to help them make their impact too. All right, author friend, thank you for listening today and for saying yes to becoming empowered and for making your author impact. As you know, I'm a believer that empowered people empower people. I have empowered you, and now it is your turn to empower others.